Elias Ward had never believed in fate. He had always trusted in preparation, training, and careful observation. But standing on the shimmering surface of Lyris, a planet that seemed to float in a halo of light, he felt a strange, unexplainable pull. The air here was different. It carried a faint hum, as if the atmosphere itself whispered secrets of the universe. The landscape was unlike anything he had ever seen on Earth. Crystal spires rose from the ground, catching the light of two moons and scattering it into a spectrum of colors that danced across the sky. Rivers ran with liquid that shimmered like molten silver, and strange plants swayed, though no wind moved them. It was beautiful, alien, and intimidating all at once. Elias was a diplomat for humanity, sent to the Galactic Union as one of its first official human representatives. The Union, an interstellar coalition of dozens of intelligent species, had always looked at humans with suspicion. They were emotional, unpredictable, and dangerous, according to centuries of alien reports. Elia's role was to observe, learn, and show that humans could act with wisdom and restraint. He was not supposed to fall in love, to dream, or to let the fragile threads of emotion influence his duties. Yet somehow, he had begun to do all three. The Lyrans were unlike any species Elias had encountered. Tall and luminous, their skin shimmered faintly in the light of their moons, and their silver eyes seemed to look through him, seeing not just his body, but his intentions and his fears. Among them, Princess Sarilith stood apart. She was the heir to the throne of Lyris, admired for her intelligence, fairness, and elegance. Her voice was calm and melodic, capable of commanding a room without raising a sound. And yet, despite her royal presence, she treated Elias as a person, not a guest, not an outsider, not a curiosity. She asked questions, listened attentively, and often smiled when humans were awkward in their ways. Elias tried to remind himself constantly, this was forbidden. Interspecies unions were almost unheard of. The Lyrans had centuries of tradition, and the Galactic Union's rules were clear. Humans were considered emotional, unstable, and unsuitable for royal alliances. Yet every time he spoke with Sarilith, every time she laughed at some small human joke or studied the human way of seeing the world, he felt an impossible warmth in his chest. Weeks turned into months. Elias found himself seeking her presence at every event, every meeting, every quiet moment when he could catch a glimpse of her luminous eyes. They walked together through the crystal gardens that stretched like forests across Lyris' capital. They observed alien wildlife, delicate creatures with translucent wings and eyes that reflected the moons above. They discussed history, ethics, and the strange, fragile beauty of life in the universe. Sarilith shared stories of Lyris, of her ancestors, and of her vision for the planet's future. Elias shared Earth's history, its mistakes, its triumphs, and the human hope that burned quietly even in the darkest hours. One evening, as the twin moons of Lyris hung low in the sky, casting pale silver light over the landscape, Elias and Sarilith found themselves alone in a quiet courtyard. The crystal flowers glowed faintly, illuminating paths that seemed to stretch infinitely. The air was thick with the fragrance of alien blooms and a strange energy that made the hairs on Elias' arms stand on end. He had intended to speak about diplomacy, about reports, about the careful balance of interstellar politics. But as he looked at her, standing there with her silver eyes reflecting the moons, all of his preparation and restraint seemed to vanish. The words he had kept locked inside for months, words he had told himself were impossible, escaped in a whisper that even he barely recognized. "I wish I could marry her," he murmured to himself, a voice soft enough that he believed no one could hear it. The moment the words left his lips, the world seemed to pause. The soft hum in the air grew louder, resonating with a strange vibration that Elias felt in his chest. And then, impossibly, Sarilith turned to him. Her eyes met his, silver and bright, and she said simply, "I heard you, And my answer is yes. Elias froze. The words were not a dream, not a hallucination, not a fantasy. She had said them aloud. The soft glow of the courtyard seemed to intensify, as if the universe itself had acknowledged the moment. For a heartbeat, he was paralyzed with disbelief. His mind raced. Interspecies marriage was forbidden. Humans were not supposed to marry into alien royalty. Diplomacy could be ruined. Alliances could shatter. And yet she stood there, calm and unwavering, offering him something he had never dared to hope for, a choice and her willingness. The quiet of the courtyard was broken by a soft rustle. Elias became aware of the royal guards, their tall, luminous forms stiff with surprise. Other diplomats had begun to gather at the edge of the courtyard, their expressions a mixture of shock, fear, and curiosity. Elias felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. One wrong move, one incorrect word, and he could bring disaster upon himself, upon humanity, and perhaps even upon the fragile trust that was slowly forming between species. But Sarilith did not flinch. Her gaze remained on his, calm and unwavering. She raised a hand, gently signaling the guards to remain where they were. "I have studied humanity," she said, her voice carrying over the soft wind, "and I have seen your courage, your honesty, and your willingness to act even when the odds are against you. I see your heart, Elias, and I choose to trust it." The room was silent. Diplomats exchanged worried glances. The Council of Lyran elders would be summoned, and political debates would erupt. But in this moment, none of that mattered. Elias felt his chest tighten with emotion. He wanted to speak, to say something profound, to explain himself, but words seemed too small. All he could do was nod, feeling a strange mixture of fear, relief, and joy. Over the following days, the news of the whispered confession and the princess's answer spread throughout the capital. Whispers followed Elias wherever he went. Some were incredulous, some skeptical, some openly disapproving. Yet there were also those who looked at humanity in a new light. Perhaps humans were not as fragile, as dangerous, or as unpredictable as they had believed. Perhaps there was strength in honesty, in courage, and in love. Elias and Sarilith were careful. They walked through the crystal gardens, discussed policy, and attended ceremonies, all while feeling the unspoken bond that had formed between them. Each glance, each shared smile, was a silent reaffirmation that the impossible was now possible. Yet Elias knew the challenges ahead would be immense. The Galactic Council had strict rules. The union of human and Lyran royalty would not be accepted easily. Diplomatic missions could be jeopardized. But for the first time in his life, Elias felt that love, honesty, and courage might be more powerful than any rule. Late one night, as he stood on a balcony overlooking the shimmering city, Elias reflected on everything that had happened. The moons cast pale light on the crystal spires, and the air carried the faint hum that had first drawn him to Lyris. He could feel Sarilith's presence behind him, though he had not turned to see her. "You were brave," she said softly. "You risked everything to speak the truth. That is more than most humans or anyone could do." Elias turned to her, the words that had been locked in his heart for months finally finding their voice. "And you risked everything for me. I never expected, I never dared to hope that it could be this way." She smiled, luminous and serene. "Hope is never foolish, Elias. The universe allows for impossible things if we have the courage to speak them aloud." In that moment, Elias understood something profound. Humanity had always been underestimated. They were emotional, unpredictable, and fragile, yes, but also resilient, courageous, and capable of acts that could change the course of history. And as he looked at Sarilith, he realized that this bond, fragile yet undeniable, was not just about love. It was a testament to the strength of the human spirit. The days that followed were filled with preparations, quiet meetings, and tense anticipation. The Galactic Council would soon convene to discuss the implications of a human marrying a Lyran princess. But for Elias and Sarilith, Each moment together was a victory, a reminder that even in a galaxy governed by rules, honesty, courage, and love could carve a path forward. And so, under the twin moons of Lyris, with the city of crystal spires glowing softly beneath them, Elias whispered again, this time not to himself, but to Sarilith, "I never imagined anything like this could happen." She took his hand, her touch warm despite her luminous skin. "Neither did I, and yet here we are, together against all odds." The universe waited, silent and watchful, but Elias felt a new strength within himself. He knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, political opposition, skepticism from other species, the scrutiny of the Galactic Council, it would face it together. And for the first time in his life, he felt that humanity, small and fragile as it seemed, might just have a place among the stars. The news of Princess Sarilith's decision reached the Galactic Council within hours. Elias Ward had expected whispers, perhaps mild disapproval, but nothing prepared him for the storm that followed. Representatives from dozens of species convened in the vast council chamber, a colossal structure of shimmering alloys and transparent floors that reflected the stars far below. The chamber was designed to intimidate, to inspire awe, and to remind everyone present that the council's decisions shaped the course of entire civilizations. Elias stood beside Sarilith, his heart pounding in his chest. The chamber was filled with towering figures from the Union's most powerful species. Their eyes glowed faintly, their voices resonated like deep instruments, and every gesture carried authority. Many looked at humans as fragile creatures, capable of emotion but incapable of leadership or responsibility. Some even whispered that Elias had manipulated Sarilith, using human charm or cunning to achieve an impossible goal. Sarilith's expression was calm. Her silver eyes swept the room, meeting each gaze with quiet authority. "I stand by my choice," she said, her voice clear and melodic. "I have studied humanity. I have seen their courage, their loyalty, and their capacity for love. Elias Ward speaks honestly, and I trust him with my life and my people's future." A murmur of surprise ran through the chamber. Few had expected her to defend a human so openly. Council representatives shifted uneasily, exchanging glances. Some were skeptical, others were angry. A few, however, leaned forward, curiosity and interest in their glowing eyes. One elder, a tall being with translucent skin and flowing limbs that seemed almost liquid, rose to speak. "Princess Sarilith," they said, their voice deep and resonant. "You understand the implications of your words. Humans are emotional, unpredictable, and prone to actions that defy logic. How can you justify a union that defies centuries of tradition and the safety of the union?" Elias felt a lump in his throat, but Sarilith did not falter. "I understand the risks," she replied, "but I have observed humans for decades. They are capable of great courage, selflessness, and resilience. Elias Ward has shown me that emotion does not weaken a species, it can guide them to extraordinary action. He has proven, through his honesty and his commitment, that humans are not the fragile beings you believe them to be." A wave of murmurs rippled through the chamber. Elias realized that this was not just about him and Sarilith, it was about humanity itself. Every word, every gesture could alter the way humans were viewed across the galaxy. He swallowed hard and stepped forward. "I will speak," he said, his voice steady despite the tension. "I do not ask for trust blindly. I do not ask for power or favor. I only ask for understanding. Humanity has survived against impossible odds. We have faced extinction, war, and chaos, yet we endure. We are emotional, yes, but that emotion drives us to protect, to create, and to sacrifice. We do not hide our feelings because we understand that true courage comes from facing them, not suppressing them. I love Princess Sarilith honestly, and I will dedicate myself to her safety, her happiness, and the well-being of the Union. I do not ask you to approve me because I am human. I ask you to see that humans can act with honor, courage, and loyalty." The chamber fell silent. Few had expected a human to speak with such clarity and confidence. Many stared at him, some in disbelief, some with growing respect. Seralith's hand found his, a silent reassurance that they faced this challenge together. Then, as if to test his words, an alarm blared across the chamber. The soft hum of Lyris had grown louder, and monitors displayed an urgent warning. A massive cosmic anomaly, a rogue stellar object, was hurtling toward the outer rim of Lyris' system. Its trajectory indicated that it would strike the inhabited regions of the planet within hours. Panic began to ripple through the chamber as the council debated whether to evacuate the population or attempt a risky intervention. Elias did not hesitate. "I volunteer human assistance," he said. "Our ships can engage the anomaly and slow its trajectory long enough for the Union to respond. We have no obligation, but we will act because it is the right thing to do." The council was stunned. Humans had never offered their fleet in such a direct manner. Their reputation as fragile, unpredictable creatures did not include acts of courage under imminent threat. Yet Elia's voice carried conviction that could not be ignored. Seralith stepped forward. "I support this action," she said. "Elias Ward's assessment is correct. Humanity has proven capable in crisis situations. They will act with precision and courage. I authorize the deployment of their fleet under my supervision." Within moments, human ships launched from Lyris orbit, sleek and fast, their engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. Elias coordinated with the fleet, issuing commands with calm authority. The anomaly, a massive swirling mass of energy and debris, approached at a speed no other species had thought manageable. But human ships, guided by determination and strategy, intercepted it. For hours, the space around Lyris became a storm of energy and light. Ships darted in complex patterns, their crews working tirelessly to stabilize the anomaly. Human ingenuity, combined with bold decision-making, allowed them to slow the rogue object just enough to prevent catastrophe. As the last ship maneuvered into position, the anomaly's trajectory shifted away from inhabited regions. The threat was neutralized. When the chamber monitors displayed the news, silence fell again. The council representatives stared at the human fleet, then at Elias. The impossible had been accomplished. Humans whom many had doubted had acted with courage, intelligence, and selflessness, saving an entire system. Seralith squeezed Elia's hand. "Do you see now?" she said softly. "This is what I meant when I said humans have strength beyond what others perceive." The chamber erupted in murmurs, some of them astonished, some of them admiring. The elder who had questioned Seralith earlier approached, his translucent form flickering with uncertainty. "Elias Ward," he said, "your actions have demonstrated that your species possesses qualities we underestimated. Perhaps we were wrong to doubt humanity so profoundly." Elias nodded, a quiet pride rising within him. "We are not perfect," he said. "But we fight for what is right, even when it is difficult. That is what makes us human." The council deliberated for hours after the crisis, weighing tradition against proof, prejudice against reality. By the time the twin moons of Lyris had risen and set again, a decision had been reached. Human and Lyran unions would be permitted under specific conditions, and Elias Ward's marriage to Princess Seralith was officially approved. It was not only a personal triumph but a historic moment for humanity. Across the galaxy, communications channels buzzed with news of the Union. Many species expressed skepticism, but others expressed hope and admiration. Humanity was no longer seen as fragile or unworthy. They had acted with courage, integrity, and wisdom when it mattered most. And in doing so, they had earned respect not just for one man, but for an entire species. Elias and Seralith stood together in the crystal gardens, their hands intertwined, watching the moons rise over the luminous landscape. The air shimmered with quiet energy, the hum of the planet carrying a sense of promise. "We did it," Elias whispered. "We changed how they see us." Sarilith smiled, her eyes reflecting the moons above. "You changed how I see you," she said softly. "And that is what matters most. The rest is history in the making." The coming weeks were filled with preparation for the official ceremony. Human and Lyran delegations worked side by side, sharing knowledge, stories, and traditions. Elias found himself at the center of a cultural bridge, helping both species understand each other. He discovered that humans had qualities that could complement Lyrans in ways no one had imagined: creativity, resilience, humor, and a willingness to act even in fear. When the day of the ceremony arrived, the city of crystal spires glowed brighter than ever. Beings from dozens of star systems gathered to witness the union. Yet for Elias and Sarilith, the grandeur of the event mattered little. What mattered was the trust, the courage, and the honesty that had brought them here. As they stood together beneath the twin moons, their vows exchanged not just in words but in understanding and mutual respect, the audience felt a quiet shift. Humanity, once underestimated, had proven that they could love deeply, act boldly, and rise to challenges that others would shy away from. And as Elias looked into Sarilith's eyes, he realized that the impossible was no longer impossible. They had faced fear, defied tradition, and shown the galaxy that courage and honesty could alter the course of history. In that moment, under the glowing light of twin moons, a new truth spread silently across the stars. Never underestimate a species that loves, a species that acts with courage, and a species willing to stand against the odds for what is right. Humanity was no longer on the outside. Humanity had arrived. Elias squeezed Sarilith's hand, feeling the warmth of her touch, and whispered, "We made history together." Sarilith smiled, luminous and serene. "And this is only the beginning," she replied. "For us and for everyone who believed in the strength of humanity." The stars above twinkled as if in agreement, and the galaxy, vast and infinite, seemed a little smaller, a little brighter, because two beings had chosen honesty, courage, and love over fear and doubt. Humanity had proven itself, not with war or conquest, but with heart, action, and unwavering determination.